Jens, how are you doing?
Good,
I'm all
good,
right.
good.
I'm all right. I
We're
like how
out
all
here.
our calls have to start like we haven't been speaking for 10 minutes already.
Yeah, nah, you gotta do it for the people. The chemistry needs to look
Yeah,
like
we
it's
have
going
to.
on. It's been going on.
That's
Right?
true.
Like we're
That's
together.
true.
Awesome, awesome. So, Jens, it's today is definitely a particularly special day in our country. Like in continuing with our conversations, I think it was a very healthy coincidence that one of our conversations is happening on Women's Day. A day where we get to celebrate the role that women have played to pave way for our freedom. And the role that women continue to play in our society today. But I think, it's such an awesome coincidence that we're having one of our conversations on Women's Day. And I was just saying this on Facebook because what often happens on Women's Day is that gents all over the country either just kind of keep quiet and let women have their day, and don't really reflect on anything about the role of women in our current society or the role that women played in actually bringing forth our freedom in South Africa. But most importantly, men don't reflect on the ever-present enemy, the enemy that has always been there for women to fight.
Yeah.
During apartheid, during colonialism, even to this day, even after the fall of the apartheid regime, that enemy being us men. We've never actually got to think about that over the past couple of years. And I think it is a fantastic coincidence for us that once again, we are coming to a place as men who are redefining manhood, who are redefining masculinity, and who are really trying to redefine our role to coexist with women, to reflect on how we have literally become the first and foremost enemy for every woman in our society, particularly Black women. So, gents, before we dive into
Absolutely.
our conversation, before I even speak about the topic at hand, media, and its influence on the way we think about women and all those kinds of things, before we delve into the positive matter, let's just reflect some reflections on Women's Day. How ought we celebrate a day such as this as men? Bongani?
Sure, man. It's so funny because earlier today, you guys will remember I sent a screenshot to the group of a Women's Day post that I posted on Facebook about 8 years ago. So at the time I was roughly 17, 18, and the post was
Yeah.
about Happy Women's Day, enjoy a day that's as beautiful as you are, whatever. And it's weird because back in the day, a lot of us used to treat, and a lot of men still do this today, we treat Women's Day as an extension of Mother's Day and an
Yes.
extension of, and it
Very
just so
true.
happens to include our sisters as one, and some of our friends who are women. So it's weird because early on in our lives, and for the vast majority of South Africans, Women's Day is a day of celebration and an extension of Mother's Day that includes other women. But then the older we got, and especially when we got to the university environment, and when social media started exposing us to discourses that we weren't exposed to before,
Yeah.
Women's Day went from being a celebration to an interrogation. And it's an
Yeah.
interrogation of the state of our country right now. And living in a country that has the world's highest rape stats, the highest gender-based violence stats, it's very important that we treat Women's Day as a day of interrogation. Whilst there might
Yeah.
be reasons to celebrate on this particular day, it's become difficult to find any reasons to celebrate. But certainly many people have found reasons to celebrate on Women's Day. As men, I don't think we should be taking that stance necessarily. I really think we should be taking a stance of interrogation and figuring out how much more
Oh,
work we
yes.
need to do to redefine this day, as well as to redefine our own masculinity, and why it's the reason why women are in this position in the first place. So for me, Women's Day has
Yeah.
definitely been an evolution over the last couple of years. And it's interesting to see the sentiments that I was exposed to as a kid versus the sentiments that I'm exposed to right now on social media.
Yeah, because I think the way that we typically celebrate Women's Day today, Bongs, is it kind of cheapens the significance of women anyway, right? The fact that, you know, we basically, I like the way you put it, like it's basically an extension of Mother's Day. And it's kind of like a very like infantilizing, romantic, you know, love letter to women that we sent, you know, that we send, like, yes, our beautiful women. And then it extends to, we must protect our women. You know, today we celebrate our women, as opposed to celebrating women and celebrating them as truly important figures and actors. And I think the only way to turn it around again is to change our own behavior, so that one day this day is actually as significant as it's supposed to be, as opposed to being an ironic day. Dooms, what are your reflections on Women's Day on your side?
Yeah, I think like just to echo what Frank said, you know, just Women's Day is ultimately the celebration of a historical political milestone, right? Towards towards, I guess, easing the conditions that disproportionately affected women during apartheid, you know? And I think in celebrating that I think celebrating that historical milestone is obviously important, but I also can't help but think about how even in the context of, because ultimately we're talking about a historical milestone, right?
Yeah.
And obviously in this discussion we're talking about how media forms how we perceive women, but let's like just in that historical narrative, just I often think about on just every Women's Day, I guess, just how much and how to the extent to which we raise women from like just from the history of bringing South Africa to the point where it is now. Erase women from the journey of our liberation, and just how frequently and how often we locate the liberation struggle inside just like very, very like masculine sites, right? I was watching ENCA the other day, and there was a woman being interviewed who was speaking about how who sort of echoed she was making the same point about how when you think of the liberation struggle, we think of male freedom fighters, right? But beyond that, we forget, like when we think of symbols synonymous with the liberation struggle, we think of Robben Island, we think of Victor Verster prison, we think of, you know, these like prisons that only house men, you know. We think of Pretoria Central to the extent that men were there. We don't think of the 491 days that Winnie Mandela spent in Pretoria Central, you know. And it's just it's just like there's the historical erasure like of women's contribution towards realizing a democratic South Africa, but then there's also the present erasure of, I guess, women's everything, right? Of their lives, even, you know, to the extent that we take them from them. So yeah, I'm always conflicted, not knowing how to commemorate Women's Day, just because of carrying the guilt of my own contributions to the conditions that, you know, make women's lives untenable and impossible, you know. But beyond that, also, like, it's just one site in history where we sort of acknowledge women's role in bringing us to the point where we are now. But oh man, I bet you if you ask people our age what Women's Day is actually commemorating, I'm not entirely sure would know, you know. But yeah, dude, just like I'm never sure how to commemorate Women's Day, just because of, like Bongani said, it's a day where ultimately we're celebrating a political milestone, and you can't help but consider the present political and social conditions that women live under in
Yes,
South Africa, being,
at the hands of
you
men.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the hands of men, people who look like us. So yeah, that's always been like I've never known what to do on Women's Day.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so interesting, bro. Like today I just picked up again, I wasn't aware that I wasn't, because it was like early in the morning, but I just picked up a book by Sisonke Msimang, The Resurrection of, sorry? No, The Resurrection of Winnie Mandela, her second book, The Resurrection of Winnie Mandela. And that book, what it does is that it's so interesting because it speaks about the rise, the fall, and the rise of Winnie Mandela. And that rise, fall, and rise, especially the fall, the rise and fall, right, is a rise and fall defined by men, because her rise in the eyes of ANC men was of this fiery activist wife of Mandela, right? And she was Mandela's wife. And then her fall was when, she began to adopt very radical and violent dispositions against the apartheid regime. And men made her fall. Like literally, they ensured that her legacy is completely tainted and she's seen as a violent maniac. But on the flip side, other cadres, male cadres, Abo Herigwala, for example, was seen as the lion of the Midlands of KZN when he was engaging in brutal, violent action against the apartheid state. When the MK was first formed by Abu Mandela, who they themselves were committing acts of terror and violence against the apartheid state. That made them heroes, and it escalated their presence in the struggle narrative. But as soon as Winnie Mandela started to do that, again, in the world of respectability politics, where women aren't supposed to be doing these defiant acts unless they are the wives of men and unless they get the permission to do those things, it then became her downfall from a legacy point of view, which lasted even post the democracy. It lasted until she died. And the rise, as Simang paints it, again, is when, upon her death, resurrected by our generation of fallists, and not even our generation as men, women in our generation, you know what I mean? Like really, really, really putting her on the pedestal that she was supposed to be on ever since she got into activism in the 60s. It's such a beautiful book, right? And I think, dudes, that's how we should celebrate Women's Day. I think we should like unearth the stories of, because if we're celebrating a political historical moment, we should then unearth the story of Helen Joseph, unearth the story of Winnie Mandela, of Lillian Ngoyi, of Charlotte Maxege, of all of these women, and acknowledge them for their complexities and for their beauty, the beauty of the story, not the beauty of the person, because that's the other thing that we do as gents. It's like, and Winnie Mandela was just so beautiful. Why did she do that? Man? You know what I mean? Like all of
because of it.
Exactly, because of those kinds of things. So all of those things have to be completely demystified, but at the same time, which leads us to our conversation today, it needs to be coupled with work, actual work that we're doing in our own community as gents, as Majida, who are the present enemy of women and who've always been the enemy of women since the Garden of Eden, like literally. And now we're just at a place where, you know what, we have to come to a place where we do something about our position as being oppressive. And it leads me to this conversation that I'd like us to be having today, about the role of the media and pop culture and how that influences the way that we see women, and how that reinforces gender stereotypes, reinforces misogyny, and patriarchy. And I think, you know, the first thing I want to say is that I think the reason why this is the case is because the media is in itself controlled by men. So the people that hold the means of production and distribution in the media space are men. And therefore, the assumption is that the audience that you're selling to is an audience full of men, or an audience that has men buying. And you will craft your narratives, you will craft your rap songs, you will craft your R&B, your stand-up routine to stereotypes that men can enjoy, particularly stereotypes that men can enjoy about women, almost like a multi-billion-dollar indulgence and feast of women made by men. And one such...
Also rooted in the assumption that buying power is located in men, right?
Yes.
And who's going to pay for our things?
Yes. At the end of the day, the dad is going to buy it, right? And you must appeal to the dad, you must appeal to the boy who's about to be a dad. And one such medium is one that is going to break all of our hearts and break the hearts of the Black boys who are going to be watching this thing right now, is rap music. It's a genre of music that we've been listening to since we were kids. And what I've prepared was going to be longer than this, but I guess it's a blessing that is not as long as it's supposed to be. So, gents, I've been listening to rap music since I was in grade 2, since I was 8 years old. And if I'm telling that story to like Sway or Raise the 5'9" or whatever, whoever these rap veterans are in the state, I would be like, you know, it would be like a legendary thing. But in the context of this conversation, this means that I've had at least 18 years of damaging lyrics. I've heard 18 years of damaging lyrics against women, 18 years full. And what I've done is that I've listed rap titles and lyrics from 2003 to 2019, but like not every year. So I only have about 6, right? Just to show you like the crap we've been listening to. And for the audience out there, like just like on the poster, this episode is going to include a couple of cuss words, so it's a bit, you know, PG. And I guess it's for good reason. I think we're using it so that we can actually expose these lyrics. So, gents, are you ready for what I'm about to read out before I ask you my first question? Gents,
from childhood all the way to now.
From childhood all the way to now. So from 2003, when I was 9 years old, to 2019, to when I was 25 years old. Right? 2003, Jay-Z, Sean Carter. If he having girl problems, I feel bad for you, son, because I've got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. Right? 2005, I was in grade 5 and I was 11 years old. And I was singing the chorus, I'll take you to the candy shop. I'll make you lick a lollipop. Go lick, girl, don't you stop. Keep going till you hit the spot. I was listening and singing those lyrics when I was in grade 5, 11 years old. 2008, first year of high school, Lollipop by Lil Wayne was the biggest selling song of that year. And he went on to sell 1 million records in 1 week. And his biggest hit being about getting a blowjob from a woman. That's his biggest hit. 2009, Young Money, the greatest hip hop supergroup of that era. They had a song with the chorus. I was how old? I was 15 in grade 9, and I was singing these lyrics. I wish I could fuck every girl in the world. That's what was happening. Young Money, right? Meaning that women are to be fucked. All of them across the world. 2012, Kendrick Lamar, a conscious rapper and everything, would expect better from him. And then he drops that backseat freestyle, right? All my life, I want money, blah, 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 blah. And he mentions wifey, girlfriend, and mistress, right? Again, back to this accumulation culture. I'm 18 years old, I'm in matric, I'm about to get into varsity. And the one thing I'm wishing for is a wifey, a girlfriend, and a mistress. I get to varsity in 2013, first year. What are we singing? I love bad bitches, and that's my fucking problem. That's the biggest song of that year, and it's like making clubs go crazy. 2015, I'm in third year in university. This is the first year of Fees Must Fall. And I hear this from AKA, and I'm hearing this in my car. I think this mommy got potential. I think this mommy got me busting out the friend zone, essentially pulling a Bill Cosby saying that through this Mali, I'm getting out of this friend zone. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see. I sort that out. Yeah, right. 2017, I'm basically at this point supposed to be finishing school, but I'm not. Anyway, you know, what's the biggest song in 2017? Bad and Bougie, right, by the Migos. Quavo says, like in the first, like basically in the first song of that album is I put a 7 in that thought coochie. That's what Quavo says, and that's like the biggest hit of that year. 2018, I got Hoes Calling, Sheck West. 2019, I'm the type of baby that'll fuck the baby sister, the baby. 2019, 2018, 2017, you must remember, 2017, my brother is in grade 8. 2018, he's in grade 9. 2019, my brother is in grade 10. My little brother and I are jamming the same songs, and a new generation of children is meditating on misogyny. So my first question, you know, briefly, you know, is how do you think rap music and pop culture has contributed to the way that you see women? I'll start with you, Dooms.
You know, I'm listening to you read all those lyrics, and I think inside the context of the song, of the broader song, or music more broadly, I think we tell ourselves very harmless. You know, it's just a song, right? But when you read it out, you can't help but think, firstly, that like words like I have no business being spoken out loud. In like what? You know what I mean? It sounds crazy that there are people saying those things out loud. But secondly, that there are 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds and 13 and 16-year-olds, like you say, meditating on this music. And I think I think it's foolish to ever think that anything that you imbibe and anything that you consume isn't going to have an impact on how you on your world, right? Or your conceptual scheme of things. But I think we need to take it a step further and realize that not only is this content and information that we consume and that we imbibe, but it's by people we idolize in many instances, right? And I think men are taught. We hear very, very often about the importance of good male role models and whatever. And I think there's sort of like a concession to the fact that like men, we teach boys to idolize all the men. You know what I mean? It's something that we very, very actively do. And if we're not going to be very, very deliberate about not just the information and popular cultural content that we consume, of course it's going to have an impact on us, right? And of course it's going to have an impact on how we view women. And I can't help but think about, you know, I've got a little brother 9 years younger than me, and I think back to times where I've just like been really, really irresponsible about what I consume and what I endorse and what I say and just what I believe around him, you know? And that's the thing, is that it in no way or in no universe could it ever be responsible to expose your younger male sibling to that, right? Because the lyrics you read out do everything from objectifying women to like literally endorsing rape, right? I think this
Yeah.
Molly got me busting out the friend zone. What he's talking about there is date raping someone, you know?
Yeah.
And
Straight.
we've spent, this is our 4th episode. We spent 3 episodes already just speaking about how the words we say, I mean, the things we say, the behaviors we endorse, whether silently or explicitly, have like a knock-on effect, you know? And you can only imagine the knock-on effect that those words have when they're expressed by people we idolize. So yeah, I mean, I think in terms of how rap music has informed how I relate to women, I've been listening to rap for as long as I've listened to music. It's the first music I listened to, you know. I mean, aside from you know, Teletubbies and stuff, which obviously might not count.
Shout out to the Teletubbies still.
First music I listened. Shout out to the Teletubbies. But it's the first music I listened to. There are people I idolize, and even now still do, right? And we spoke about complexity, and I idolize Jay-Z. He's my absolutely hands down my favorite rapper. Love his business ethic. I don't love billionaires, but I just chop that up to Jay-Z's complex, you know? Or like you even sort of ascribe like a false complexity to the lyrics of musicians you idolize, where you might tell yourself that the only reason he says these things is to sell music. He ultimately has to sell the music, right? But if you're in a position, if you're in Jay-Z's position, or you're in 50 Cent's position in 2008, you're dictating what rap music is, right? You're very, very literally informing the culture. Jigga himself talked about how he killed autotune. So he's standing there, he's making music, posturing about the impact and the influence he has over rap music. Use it responsibly then, you know? And I think we need to get to a place where it just needs to not be okay to say that. It's just wild. And I think the scariest part is we live in a time where we've spent, I guess, all of history actually just removing women's physical and sexual agency away from them. And now even when women try to express their sexual agency or their autonomy, we still pervert that.
Oh,
you know
yes.
what I mean?
Oh my God.
So yeah, man, those are my thoughts. But yeah, rap music has deeply informed how I relate to women. It's probably been the biggest variable, because my mother didn't teach me how to patriarch, you know, and I was raised by my mother, my sister, and my grandmother. It was the music I listened to, and the music that my friends were listening to, and all of my peers, and it was those things, those external stimuli that shaped my worldview.
Yeah. Let's capitalism is chowing us. So let's start the call over. Capitalism.
All right,
we're gonna start the call over. Guys, don't worry, we're coming back. Okay? Sponsor a premium account to your boys.
Let's do the